Alrighty, it's time for an HTA tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to cover all of the differences that the HTA has compared to the NTA, meaning that every general skip that is already used in NTA I won't cover. Instead I'm going to link a couple of tutorials which help explain the basics, which would be Plush's tutorial, Foxy's tutorial for Phaedra, and my own for Cenobia. And obviously, since I'm not going to cover the basic tutorials, I won't cover Celosia, Cenobia or Malus in this tutorial, since they basically don't have any differences at all, besides that you have to stab a little more. And on Phaedra I'll cover it very briefly, but here again just watch Foxy's tutorial and it's fine. And yeah, let's start out with Malus, I guess. And yeah, I forgot to say, it's obviously like a tutorial for a full game run. So if you wanna do HTA boss rush, this is going to be very useful, and some of those strategies can actually be applied for IELTS as well. And I think, yeah, every strategy besides one that I show I actually used in an HTA boss rush before. So let's get started. First with Malus. With this method I'm going to show, it's perfectly possible to get a sub 1. This is my current PB, which I actually got in a boss rush, which is a 58-second run. And yeah, the start is basically the same as for NTA Malus, so I'm not going to really talk over that one too much. But yeah, now to the first difference. Here I get to the nose, so it's a bit different since I get a perfect setup for what I want to do here. Let me see, okay, paint works. And this is obviously the ideal scenario, but you don't actually have to get this. If you get the general, normal idea where you go this way, it also works perfectly fine. And obviously you could just do the sigil with a plant and it would be completely fine. But the ideal way is actually avoiding to get a plant, since it actually saves quite some time on HTA. In the case that I get here, it's pretty simple, since you don't get a plant per default if you go from the nose. But even if you do the normal strategy where you basically go up this way, you can just stand here and get a plant, but what I usually do is, after I grab, I go forward while grab a little bit to here. So kind of grab here and walk a bit forward, so it allows you to lose the plant and keep on stabbing. Because usually Wanda doesn't have too much trouble stabbing even without a plant, but since you get ricochet stabs, you don't get the pull-out animation that saves a lot of time, like I said already. But yeah, in this case I get the thing from the nose, so I can start stabbing instantly. You want to go for 4.5 stabs, and you want to try to interrupt the animations so you don't get shaken around. Here it's pretty easy. Sometimes you have to go for the half step earlier, and that's usually fine. So 4.5 steps up there, and now to the transition to the next part, to the second sigil. You can obviously go for a jump, which is probably the way you wanna do it in ILs. If you go for a fast time, just jump off fairly far behind, like a short jump from here. Usually you actually get the jump, or it's pretty far behind, farther behind than you would think. But what I found for boss rush, it's actually a very consistent way by just going down like that, kind of. Like just walking down, and it's usually fine. Sometimes Malus shakes and it's a bit awkward, then you just wanna drop down there and jump to the sigil that way. But yeah, most of the time you can just walk down to the sigil and you're there, and it's very consistent. So if you watch this video, yeah, just like that. And you arrive at the sigil, and now something that is actually very useful on other colossi as well. Like, many ILs use it, and even in a boss rush on something like Barba it's very helpful. And it isn't as widely used in NTA because usually it's fine without it. But on HTA it actually saves a lot of time, and that's trying to go for the what would you even call it? Like the equivalent of a reset or a cycle step for hanging surfaces like that. Basically, after each step, you wanna let go of the grab button, re-grab, and slightly after change your weapon to the hand. And that actually allows you to keep stabbing like that. It's almost like a cycle, but the re-grab and the switch weapon allows you to not only continue stabbing without being shaken since you re-grabbed, but also the charge animation is actually faster, since whenever you switch to hand, the charge is just faster. So you can actually use this in a very consistent manner on Malus, as you can see here. The first step I still do normally, but here you could just see it. I re-grab, switch weapon to hand, and can start stabbing again. Now, another good way of actually switching the weapon is whenever Malus does this animation, where he kind of swings his arm back and forth. You always lose grip, so you can't really continue stabbing, but what you can do is actually switch weapon during this animation. Usually if you just spam the weapon switch button, there's like this one moment, usually like here when he slightly re-grabs, the one that actually, yeah, if you saw it, it was very, very brief. I basically switched the weapon during the slight second where Wanda was actually kinda grabbing. And this actually makes him switch the weapon to hand again. So instead of the usual re-grab and weapon switch, you can go for this method as well if you want to have a very easy time save. Because you literally just press a button and that gives you an easy time save. And this actually is also a thing which you can do on Barba's hand. So, continue stabbing, weapon switch, re-grab, weapon switch, and it's 4.5 steps here again. Sometimes what you can do is, if you're not sure if you can make a full stab, is go like for a third of a stab, and if you continue full stabbing after that, you actually guarantee a health value where you can actually slash the sigil and guarantee it's basically an animation where you skip the pull-out animation, and it's almost like a jump stab in that case. It is also very useful, which you can go sometimes for. Like, whenever there is very low health left on a Colossus, you can actually slash to kill. And this is one of the Colossi where you can actually apply this. But I didn't go for it here, so there's still the animation, but it's a sub 1 HTA Malus in a boss rush. So basically, to summarize this one, you wanna try and avoid a plant on the head, go for 4.5 steps, walk down to the second sigil, try to go for the resets where you re-grab and switch weapon, and if possible slash, and if not, just go for the fast resets, and usually this guarantees a time of sub 110 at the very least. And if I get like a clean execution, it's usually something between a sub 1 time and like a 104, depending on, I guess, how clean you get the first few stabs in and stuff. So yeah, that's Malus. Now for quad, well, I think if you go for like an IL or something, there is a possibility that amp jump actually works here as well, but it's nowhere near as much of a time save in HTA as it is on NTA, and it is much harder to do. So what I'm going to show here is a good way of getting a sub 140 at the very least, and it's at 125 PB for me here. So it has a few tricks in there which I didn't really see too many people use before, and I got some inspiration from Marcelo's run here, so let's look at it. First of all, I go for the front leg strat here because it's the most convenient on HTA. I've seen Plush in his tutorial say that you already do the shot from here, and I guess I understand why he would say that, because in the original it is actually almost the only way to do that. But in the remake, what I've noticed is that it's actually easier to run all the way to the foot. Like, stand here, and if you're here you can actually just move the camera and instantly get the shot like that. It's very easy, and if you practice this a little bit, it's actually easier to do for me personally than any other way. Like, run up almost till you literally touch the foot, turn around and get that shot instantly. Now you wanna run back, and what I do here is something that you don't have to go for in an actual boss rush. You can just wait and then hop onto it, and it's a bit safer to do. But I actually jump onto the foot instantly, and that's another, like, kinda unknown thing. Like, if you touch the foot early enough, even if you just like jump on it and touch it briefly, and ideally you obviously grab onto it, you trigger the whole animation where Quad moves his foot up earlier. So it's actually a time save which you can go for if you so choose. But the problem with it is if you mistime the jump, you can actually die at some times if you literally arrive too early and get destroyed by the Quad falling on you. So a bit risky, a little bit, but you can go for it if you want to. Here I can't get to a grab, but still, once I jump onto it, Quad instantly triggers the animation. And no matter if you triggered this animation or not, you can just grab and kind of move up here, and yeah, you kind of wanna grab here and wait till his foot moved up before you jump. I do it a little bit earlier here, but it's completely fine. And now about the sigil. Actually, the fun thing about that sigil, okay, I messed this one up a bit, is that, let me play it for a second, you can actually stab almost all the way, like literally up here. Like, all of this area still counts as a sigil. Maybe not at the very far top, but it's very lenient when it comes to stabbing. Like, it's a way bigger area than you would think. And it's actually, like, in my opinion, getting a bit confused with the paint. In my opinion, it's very good to grab somewhere here, because it actually allows you to do a trick, which I will show after I explain this one. So this is kind of the place that you wanna go for. But even if you grab like I do here, it's still completely fine, and it's not really worth it to move there just to get the animation, usually. And you go for 4.5 steps here, and usually how I do it is I go for 2 full steps, then 1 half step, and then another 2 full steps. And I don't go for the resets like I do on Malus here, because it kind of messes with the timing, and sometimes one that just shakes and you lose time, so it's not even worth it. And the good thing about it is that it actually allows to do that little trick that I'll show later very consistently. Step 1, step 2, then I usually go for a half step, not sure if I did it here, yeah I did, and 1 more step, and as I go for the second step, for the last step, so 5th technically, you kind of wanna once you stab, the sigil kind of let go of a grab button and re-grab a couple of times. Like almost spam it, but there is a timing to it. And what you want to look for is Wander kind of swinging in that direction. So it gives him kind of like a boost. Or that's at least how I kind of try and do it. And this strategy is something that I just learned from watching Marcelo run this game. And if you actually do this grab and re-grab thingy in a good timing, what you can do is actually this. Grab, re-grab, and you're already here. And this is way faster than going for any side jumps. Sometimes if you like fail this one, you actually end up, well, Wanda ends up farther down and you will just move up here and do like a half jump like I do here anyway. But this strategy is consistent enough to at least try and go for, because it saves a lot of time compared to a normal side jump. And sometimes if it doesn't kind of work out just as perfectly as here, you can just spam the re-grab button, and sometimes this also works, like spam as hard as you could. It's a little bit, it's like something you should experiment with and see for your own if it works or not, but it's definitely a trick which you should try out, because I arrive at this point already at 40 seconds, and if I do a side jump, I'm happy if I can be here at 45 seconds. So just something to note. Half jump here, move to this sigil, and sometimes quad starts shaking like that if you're like too fast, which is actually a good thing. If you're not sure if you can make it, just do a quick little tap thingy where you stab him really quickly to cancel the animation, and then you can continue the cycle or reset stabs, however you want to call them. But I think here I actually go for half a stab, because you actually don't need as much like power to this stab as you would think. This sigil is about 4.5 stabs, but the 0.5 is kinda more like a 0.3 almost. Like you don't need too much of a stab, and if you can go for like a third of a stab here and continue doing 4 full stabs, it should usually be enough. And if you can cancel the animation with that, it's actually the fastest way of doing it. So here I go for the cycle stabs. It's something that I think Church explained before. I think I'll link his video where he explains it on Kuro. But just like as a quick side note, you basically wanna go for a full stab, and then once you see Wander shaking, actually one important thing also is that you, oh god, now my paint is kinda bugging out. Okay, it's fine. Here we go. You wanna grab kind of here, up here, to guarantee that you don't get the plant, because this technique doesn't work if you get the plant. Like if you see Wander doing the whole pull-out animation, you're already doing it wrong. But if you grab up here, you wanna go for a full step, then let go, move up a little, re-grab, and then continue stabbing. And that's like a very, if you get the timing on it, it's a very intuitive timing, but it's kinda hard to do on quad, because once you fail to get the rhythm, it kinda messes things up, and sometimes Wander keeps rolling around, even sometimes he gets a boost and falls off and stuff. It's kind of annoying, but ideally if you do it right, it kind of looks like this. You re-grab, stab, get pulled. Okay, here I actually failed it once because it wasn't as fast as it could have been. But you stab, re-grab, stab, re-grab, move up, re-grab, yeah, kind of like that. You do 4 stabs with 1 almost half step, and when you continue going here, you jump over that barrier thingy, but you can also grab it if you're not getting enough height. And here you go for the usual plant, which you would go for in the old strategy of NTA, where you grab kind of between these thingies, and you're forward far enough to actually get the stabbing, and if you got it right, you'll get the plant. You go and here actually another cool trick. You don't want to go for full steps, but rather 3 full steps and 1/3 of a step. Because no matter what you do, even if you go for full steps, it's going to always be pixel health. So you might as well cut this step short, kind of like here, and then you can still do a quick tap to finish off quad. This was a 125. Whenever I do boss rushes, I usually get a sub 140 at the very least, and you can definitely get like low 130s or even sub 130, as you can see here with that strategy. So yeah, those were just a few things that you can optimize for HTA quad. Okay, Gaius in HTA is actually one of the colossi that you can optimize the most in HTA by doing just some things right. And this is my 152, which I actually got during a boss rush. And the funny thing about that is, once I figured out some little timings, it actually became very easy for me to get like consistent sub 2 minute and 10-second Gaiuses. And yeah, I guess let's start. I skip the cutscene, and this one doesn't like differentiate too much from what people do in NTA. I also go for the full launch, and I guess I'll explain it here in a very like quick manner, because I think Plush covered some kind of other kind of jump which also works, but is, I don't know, I just felt it was very inconvenient, and especially for HTA you wanna go for this strategy because it makes things way easier. And I'm just going to explain the way I found is the most consistent to me. Like many other people like Church and Foxy tried explaining it to me in different ways, and it kinda worked but was kinda inconsistent. I'm not sure, everyone has kind of their own way of doing that, but this one actually feels very convenient and easy to me, so I'm going to explain it in a very short way. You run up here until 3.5 seconds, go for the arrow shots here till he does his animation and stuff. I think on HT it's actually not as important to hit these shots. Like, it definitely helps if you hit all of them, but you know, it's not the most important thing ever. So you wait till he does this animation, jump back, and now how I do it is actually something that helped me personally a lot once I realized how to do it. So okay, paint is a bit inconvenient here. Here we go. So after a short jump kind of here, instead of running forward or jumping instantly sideward like I've seen many people do, I actually copied this strat from the Cron stream. I just run diagonally up there. You run a bit, then you jump, and then you actually have the perfect setup to get the third jump and the launch. You can watch Plush's tutorial where he kinda goes into detail how to do the small jumps and stuff, and it's kind of similar to what he does. But this little detail where you run up diagonally after the first jump, it's actually something that made the strategy very consistent for me. So basically what you wanna do is, once you see the shaking of the sword, you jump onto it with a small hop, you run up diagonally, do another jump, and then you can basically do the third jump almost instantly, or you just run a little bit and then do it. It doesn't matter, you always get the right thingy almost. So let's see how it looks. Shake, you jump diagonally, and you have the lineup perfectly. I'll show it again. Small hop, and once you small hopped, you already see me running up diagonally this way till I'm at the end of the sword, and I kinda do another small-ish hop. You can actually, I think you hold with the button for quite some time just experiment with it a bit. It's very natural once you get used to the timing. But what this basically guarantees, this sidewards jump, or you can actually do it almost like to the side, but I felt if you run up the sword a little, it actually helps. You land on the part of the sword where you can just almost go instantly for the next jump, and you get the launch where you land here. And once you grab onto this thing, you already are guaranteed to get the right animations and stuff. The only thing that is kind of tricky is if you land behind it on this side, or directly in front of it, where you have to experiment a bit with the timing. Like I'm kind of behind here, but not quite. Just make sure to not get a boost which is too much and makes you fall off behind the back and stuff, which is kind of inconvenient. But basically, if you wait for this animation, then let go, you should be landing somewhere here, and that's fine. Just grab onto it, wait, and now you wanna wait for this shake to get the plant. You basically wait for Gaius to shake, and once you see him move up kind of and stop shaking, you wanna move up and kind of grab behind the sigil. You don't wanna be too far behind, because that actually makes Wanda not hit the stabs, but if you're too far at the front, then Wanda doesn't get the plant. So if you're unsure, just try to be a little bit farther behind than you would expect it to. So basically, if you're stabbing kind of just behind the sigil, even a bit farther behind usually works. Then you know you get the plant. And once you see the pull-out animation, you can just go for 5 full stabs. Just go for 5 full stabs and you shouldn't have any problems or interruption here. And that actually kills off the sigil. And now, as you do the 5th stab, if you had the timing alright, Gaius will start to fling his head forward, and that's where after the stab you wanna run behind like that, kind of. Sometimes it's a bit tricky, but what is important here is that you make sure to be here once Gaius starts going up with his head again, because that actually gives you a very easy timing to jump to the 2nd sigil. Like, just make sure to hear it. I was actually kind of almost falling off. Like, if you're not sure, just grab here and wait for him to stop shaking, and it should still be fine. This was a bit risky what I did here, but however you go, as long as you land here as he stops shaking, you can actually do this jump without any interruption. Because usually the problem is, if you wait too long, Gaius kind of starts moving his arms around or turning and stuff, and this usually leads to this jump failing because Gaius is turning. But if you do this jump, let's show it again. If you do this jump as Gaius is going back into his normal position, you are guaranteed to land on this sigil, because this one won't move at all during this animation. So you do the jump. Here you just go for a stab. If you get the plant here, I would always go for the 2nd stab because it's guaranteed. If not, either you can go for the same thing as I already showed on Malus, where you re-grab and put the sword away as I do here, or you just put the sword away anyway and try to wait for animations where Gaius kind of puts his arm back. This sigil is a bit tricky and requires some good timing, but if you're unsure, I would always always advise you to put the sword away, because that makes the timing easier, since the sword charges faster. You have basically a better window of hitting the stab. But here, since I did this, see, as he's like doing these kind of animations, you can actually get the thing in, or if he goes back like that. And now, usually if you're like on average timing, you jump down here. Like, what I would advise is either just take a very slow route and kind of move here step by step to not fall off, because it's actually kind of easy to fall off here. But sometimes if he goes for the animation where he lifts his arm, if you're feeling risky, you can actually run up his arm like that and jump down then. Or go for a side jump, but this one can also be very tricky if you get some kind of boost. So yeah, if you do it like here, where I just move here and then fall off like that, grab here, it's actually very easy. And if you have a fast enough timing as I do here, Gaius will actually start shaking his body instantly. And that guarantees that you get with stabs. Because as long as Gaius is just walking around, Wanda has a very hard time stabbing. So if you get here in a normal timing, and he still walks around, you can try to go for a stab or half a stab, and it's more or less luck based. But the animation you kind of wanna see is actually this one, because once he starts shaking like that, Wanda usually gets guaranteed stabs as long as he's kind of on the bottom side of the sigil. So yeah, here you wanna kinda go for 5-ish stabs again, with the last one cut short because you've hit some arrows before. And if you get the instant animation like I do here, it's almost a guaranteed sub 2. If you don't, that's fine, you will just get a sub 2 minute and 10 seconds, which is also very good. And yeah, that's about it. You just go for half a step. Sometimes if you hit enough arrows, you can actually just tap. You can also go for a slash here sometimes, but it's very, very tricky and inconsistent on Gaius for some reason, so I would advise against it. Just go for the quick tap or half a step on the last one, and it should be fine. Like here, 152, what else to ask for? So yeah, to summarize, you do the launch, wait out the shakes and go for the plant. As soon as you finish the 5th step on the first sigil, you run back and try to be there as he moves his head up. When you jump to the 2nd sigil, try to go for the 3 very fast stabs, where you either do the reset where you put away the sword, or if you get the plant, go for 2 quick ones, and then a reset one. You move back, go to the belly and wait for the animation, and then it's fine. So much for that. Okay, I won't talk much about Phaedra. I will just link Foxy's tutorial, which is just as great for HTA as it is for NTA, how to get onto Phaedra and stuff. The only thing I will talk about are the sigil, and for that I'm actually using Wacky's video, because I think she did a good job of kind of presenting how to do it. So let me go a bit back. So once you get here and stuff, she actually does a kind of risky jump. You don't have to go for it, but it's obviously faster. You can also jump around in front of these things actually. Kinda risky, but something you can try to go for. But the really important thing about these side sigils is, obviously there's a side sigil on every side of Phaedra, one on the left, one on the right. And these are the only difference to NTA Phaedra besides the stabbing count. So as you grab onto these, even if you get shaken like that, what you wanna do is be on top of the sigil almost. Like, it would still work if you would grab slightly lower on that, but you really don't have much choice on the sigil, because if you deviate too far to the top of it, or to the right or to the left, it actually just doesn't allow the stabs to go through. So you kind of want to be on top of the sigil or slightly below it. And if you get the plant just like here, you know you're doing great, because you usually can get out 2.5 very fast stabs. And that's what you want to go for, 2.5 stabs. That's all you need. 1, 2.5. And Waiki just goes for this transition where she just moves up. What I found is easier is to actually do a half charge jump from the while still grabbing, and it works just fine as well. And yeah, same on this side. You grab onto it, move up to be on the sigil. 1, 2, and sometimes Phaedra does that. Don't get like like Phaedra will always do those weird animation where it just rears up, you get shaken. It doesn't matter, just keep on grabbing and you should be able to get the stabs. And then either stay grabbed and do her half jump, or just walk up there, you're fine. Yeah, you actually can do 2 very quick stabs, or do this one, it doesn't really matter. When you go for the plant, and it's fine. It's basically like NTA just with extra stabs. So yeah, not too much to say here, just make sure to be on the side sigil when you stab, do 2.5 stabs, and the rest is just like an NTA. Okay, on Avion there are actually 2 patterns that are kinda similar, but require some different transition to the second sigil. Arguably it's actually easier than NTA because you just can't go for crazy like wing drops since you don't have you just don't have enough stamina unless you're Stormglad and just go for a jump step and all that jazz, but in an actual boss rush it's just not easy to do. So I've tried to find a very consistent way of making it work, and I think I found it. You have 2 different patterns and both of them guarantee you like a time around 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. You can get faster times obviously if you look at my current PB. It's not that great, but it kind of uses the same strategy best, but in a faster and riskier manner. But as long as you go for this one, it's actually still enough. Like, yeah, you obviously swim forward, do the arrow thingy. Me being very slow because I use modern, doesn't matter. So yeah, the start is just like in NTA, you jump here, wait for... Yeah, actually, let me cover this. I was kind of always unsure about the timing, but you wanna let go, run forward and re-grab as soon as you see the feet leaving the water completely. That's the timing I've used and it worked every time. I don't go far enough here, but it's still fine as long as you kind of move in the general direction. In theory you don't even need to do this re-grab thingy, but it just makes things easier, because sometimes if you mess up the timing and stuff, it just gets very painful if you're not fast enough on this wing and stuff. So I would just advise you to do this thing where you let go, run forward, re-grab quickly, and when you're just... As long as you are on this general area of the wing, once Avion stops shaking, you're fine. And you wanna kind of wait for... what is it, 3 wing cycles? Let me see actually, to make sure I'm... 1... 2... Yeah, and after the 3rd you can start running instantly, kind of like that, to the sigil. And since this is HTA, you need 1.5 stabs on each wing. I would just go for 1.7 to be on the safe side, like here. And also one important thing that I've noticed people sometimes not doing, and when they ask themselves why do I fall off a wing and such, it even happens to me sometimes because I get lazy about doing this. But if you actually get a plant on any of the wings, Wonder sometimes just falls off because he still is in the stabbing animation and he can't re-grab fast enough. So what I've started doing, shout out to Church who actually told me about this, and it makes things easier. You wanna grab onto the wing, onto the sigil, move a slightly bit while you're grabbed, because this actually breaks any kind of plant, and then start stabbing. And this actually saves you a lot of pain and suffering, because most of the time Wander won't get the plant in that case. So just a quick tip, grab, move a little, and then start stabbing to avoid plants and misery. Alrighty, 1 full stab, and obviously there are 2 animations, one where it's the wing drop animation for NTA where Avion moves up the wing, and the other one like here where he moves it down. And this one is actually easier to do. So if it moves down, you do one normal stab. Whenever Wanda gets a possible grab, you go for a 0.71. And now, if you did everything correctly and you have the animation where he moves the wing down, usually the wing straightens out like that. And the easiest way of getting to where you need to go is actually to just run. Just go down. Like, you don't need to do any fancy stuff where you let go of a wing, you drop down and stuff. In this case, just run down. It's easy and it's almost as fast, but you know, you don't have to be fast on HTA anyway, since in this case you actually, since you can't go for a wing drop, in NTA you would usually run back to the tail and do the second sigil there. But what I've noticed is actually faster on HTA is going for the second wing anyway, and just wait out the flapping animations. Because since there are 4 full steps on the back, if you run forward again you actually lose time because the second animation starts most of the time. I think you can make it work if you're very fast about it, but it's just not worth it in most cases. What I would do is just go for the second wing. So wait till Avion kind of straightens out, you regain some stamina. Now wait here till he stops flapping. And that's actually important, that once Avion stops these wing animations, that you run to the second sigil instantly, because otherwise if you're not fast enough, sometimes after you finished off the sigil, Avion will continue the flapping animations, and that's very inconvenient, like something you don't want to happen, because then it's just luck based if you will survive or fall down because of a stamina. So yeah, just wait till Avion stops this, and once you see him straighten out, run to the second sigil instantly. Do this thing again where you move, kind of like I did here, one full step, 1.7 of a step, and if you were fast enough, usually the wing will straighten out, like here, and you can run back before this animation starts again. And then you just jump back, do one full step, another full step, so it's 4 steps in general. 2, 3, and if you're feeling fancy, it's very consistent, you can just go for the jump step like I do here for the last one. You don't have to, but it's very consistent, so why not go for it. This is the first animation where Avion does the wing animation where it goes down at first. The next one I'm going to show is the wing drop animation. So with the wing drop animation, it's basically the same thing, but not quite. You still go for the whole shenanigans where you get that shot, jump to the middle, wait for Avion, do the run forward and re-grab thingy. This time I even did it in a better way. Wait for 3 flaps. 3, okay. And now you will notice it's kind of luck based. His wing goes up. So you still do a thing where you move during the thing. Do the full step. Wait. It almost looks the same, but after the 0.7 of a step, instead of straightening out the wing like Avion would in the other thing, he just does this again. And here you actually have to drop down, because otherwise you will run out of stamina, and it's faster anyway. So what you wanna wait for is actually like the Avion is almost like you know, not sure what the right word is. I guess in a 90-degree angle to the water, but not quite. So kind of you drop down a little bit earlier, and then you actually wanna move your stick in this general direction, like towards Avion again, like top right. If you hold it top right, it's usually fine. What you wanna do is drop down and re-grab like that. So let's just to show it again. You do the a bit too early. You do the second step. Stay grabbed, stay grabbed, stay grabbed. let go, fall down, re-grab, and from this point on you actually do the same thing as in the other pattern. You will have a lot less stamina, so you want to make sure to find a way to stand so you can still regain stamina. But don't wait too long, because if you don't go to the second sigil instantly, you will have the same problem which I explained in the other thing, where Avion will start doing these animations again. So you wanna go for 2 quick steps, or 1.7 rather, and then if you were fast enough you will still straighten out the wing, but you have to be kinda fast about it here. Okay, here I actually almost fell down. That wasn't necessary at all, but usually it's fine. When you go back and do the same thing, it's about as fast as the other one. So yeah, to summarize, you go from one wing to the other to the back, but there is some in between stuff which I explained. So yeah, that's about it for Avion. Alrighty, before I go into the whole specifics of Barba HTA for full game boss rushes, like the strategy you would usually go for, I kinda wanna show a little thing which is very useful and interesting to know about, let's say. It's a strategy that Wacky and I actually, to my knowledge, invented. It's a hand first strategy for HTA Barba, and if you wanna try it out, it's like, even my current world record time is nowhere near optimized, and it's probably the fastest strategy to go for right now for HTA Barba. I even made it work once on boss rush, even though it's inconsistent, but let's say if you're like behind on time and kind of feel like we need to save time by force, this is one of the ways you can try to do it. And actually if you play the OG, it's very consistent there. I actually tried it on the PS3 version on PS Now, and once I get an actual PS3 version of the game on a proper console, I will actually try to get a good score on this one, because there it actually works every time. So if you play the OG, there it's actually even more relevant of a thing. But anyway, what you kinda wanna go for is, yeah, once you start up, let's give a cinematic. The idea is obviously to jump into the sand, but there's some timing connected to it. So what I kind of do to make it more consistent is actually kind of go in a zigzag, kind of like that, where you first go to the side and then jump into the hand from the side. And it actually made it more consistent for me personally. So as you see here, I run to this side, switch to hand, and then once I'm past this marking on the floor, only then I return, jump up, and if you're lucky you actually manage to get into the hand, and then you can run up and go for 3 full stabs and all. It's very inconsistent because most of the time Wanda just slips out of it and doesn't get the jump, unless you're playing the PS3, because there it's very easy. So when you go here, one little thing that you can actually do is, after every step you can actually switch to hand, which I didn't do in this thing, but it's kind of works the same as for Malus. After every step you can kind of spam the switch to hand button, and it would actually switch to hand every time before, like, yeah, if I would switch to hand here, it would switch to hand before the animation ends, and that would allow you to have a safer way of doing that. But even if you don't do that and just go for 3 stabs, usually it's fine. In the PS3 version it's kind of different, but yeah, this is a PS4 tutorial because I know more about it. So and once you're done with the 3 stabs, if you're doing this, like, there's probably a way to jump from that hand directly to the head, but I couldn't make that work right now. So what I do right now is stand in front of this foot and kind of on the edge of this marking. And if you stand kind of like here or like I do here, it actually almost guarantees Barba to every time do this animation that he does right here. And then it's just like in the regular skip, which like Plush probably explains well enough in his tutorial, so I won't go into detail here. And after that you just do whatever I explain for the regular strategy. So now, just a little thing to note here, this is possible in HTA and it's a very cool thing to do, but now I'll continue with the actual tutorial for the full game boss rush, because this strategy is a bit too inconsistent. Though maybe someone will find a consistent way of doing it every time, I'm not sure, but just to have it mentioned. Okay, this time I'm showing Barba in the way I did it in my current HTA even PB. It's a very fast time, in my opinion, for the standards you can actually go for in a full game run. And it's a very safe strategy anyway, so let me just show that. So the start is just the same as in NTA, so I won't say much concerning that. You just do the skip, which Plush probably explained in great detail in his tutorial. So if you don't know how to do it, just watch Plush's tutorial. So yeah, the usual, you jump down here, in this hand, jump up. I will get one cycle or not, but in any case a 2 cycle is enough, most of the time. Okay, you jump up, do the skip. And here the head sigil actually takes 4 full steps, so I think what the best course of action is try to go for the plant, which is kind of here, at least after the first or second step. If you're unsure about it, just go for it immediately, because otherwise it gets a bit tricky with Barba moving forward. I think here I do like 2 steps without the plant, and then I go for it here. The regrab is kind of behind the sigil. 3, not quite, I don't get it actually here, but yeah, that was the plant. So I actually did after 3 full steps. But yeah, the plant is here and it's full 4 steps, nothing more to say here. Yeah, but this is the plant. After that you just jump down kind of, or walk down, it doesn't matter too much. And actually on HTA Barba, more than ever, the reset stab thingy on the side sigils, which I already showed on Malus, are very, very helpful, because those can help you to do the stabs quick enough to not run out of stamina, because that can be a problem on HTA. So I explained them a little bit on HTA Malus, so if you want an explanation on them, just go back to Malus, but basically the idea is you regrab and switch to hand. So I think that's what I do here. You wanna always try and interrupt those kind of shakes. It's the same as an NTA, it's just, I think 4 or 5 steps, I'm actually not quite sure here, because usually you sometimes have to just do a step which is too short. Here for some reason Barba didn't interrupt, even though I stabbed him. I go for steps and yeah, it seems like it's 4 steps. And you can actually drop down here and jump onto the hand from the stairs, but it's an inconsistent strategy. I would only use it if you actually fall down because you run out of stamina or something. Usually if you go for 4 quick steps, it's not a problem anyway. But just so you know, if you fall down off Barba, but you already have both sigils finished, it's not game over. You can actually jump onto the hand from the stairs, and even if he is near the stairs, you can make him turn so that the hand is just near the stairs and you can jump onto it from the elevation. So just a thing as a backup. But the more consistent way of doing it is actually jumping back up with half charge jumps. Kind of. Sometimes it gets a bit awkward, like here with the cutscene. But once you're back up, you kind of want to restore a bit of stamina. And then drop down, like that. So as you can see, if you actually failed that jump and were here, you could make Barba turn in this direction, and you could still jump from the stairs here up into the sigil. That actually works. But ideally you obviously wanna just get the drop where you kind of wait, regain a bit of stamina, and then drop kind of down here. Yeah, And here you just get the 3 steps and you're good to go. Yeah, and I think I even like switch to hand every time here. Or maybe only once, I don't remember. But here you could actually switch to hand. Okay, I again don't go for it, but it's a possibility, and yeah, not much to say here. As long as you get a sub 2 here, Barba is just fine for HTA. I get a 146 here. So yeah, that's about it for Barba. Alrighty, Hydrus. For Hydrus, it's the completely same lineup as it is for NTA, for first skip. So for that one, just watch Plush's tutorial, and for the jump steps after, you can watch Church's tutorial, which is kind of outdated for the lineup part, but it's still relevant for the jump steps, and I'm pretty sure Plush also explains the jump steps, but just I'll give you 2 different tutorials for that, just so you have a bit of you know, different resources to learn the skip. The only thing I'm going to talk about for HTA is actually a thing which you can do, which is kind of tricky, but can give you a faster time. So why not talk about it, right? So yeah, you do the lineup with 1-8 timing or whatever, it doesn't matter. I think I did a kind of different one here. You just go for the jump step and stuff, it's the Hydrus skip. You can watch it in the other tutorial, so it's not why I'm here. You go up here, wait for the shake, and now you could go for 2 jump steps here, then stab the horn and go for normal steps after, which would be the kind of safe variant. You could also just instantly go for the horn and then start stabbing, but that one is, you know, it's still a 1 cycle, but if you fail even 1 stab, it can mean that you fail the 1 cycle. But another thing that you can do is continue jump stabbing, and how that works I'm going to explain. So for the first jump stabs you can just do the same thing as you did. And here I actually failed the jump stab, but you could do a second fast one on the sigil as well. But here I jump stab the horn instantly. By mistake. It's my PB, but it's an accident, okay? But now to the funny part. What many people don't know is, like, they try to jump step the normal way, and Hydrus, after you kill this horn, will just start doing weird stuff and you can't jump step, you would think. But there's actually a way to keep on jump stabbing, and that's what I'm going to explain now. Because usually if you're going for the jump steps, you're going to jump off from here, kinda, between the horn and stuff, go forward, and in the first couple of steps is perfectly fine. But if you do that for too long on HTA, the horn will just kill you because it does too much damage. So after you do the 2 steps, you just jump step the horn, and now you keep on jump stabbing, but just from here, right behind this thingy here, right behind this horn. You can keep on jump stabbing if you jump off there. If you jump off too far forward, Hydrus will do this weird animation which messes up the jump stabs. If you are not comfortable with this, just go for the normal stabs in that case, and it works fine. But if you keep on jumping from farther behind, which is here, you can do a long jump and jump stab still. Then go back by letting go and re-grabbing and doing the jump step from here again. And this actually makes it possible to keep on jump stabbing. It's a very cool technique, and yeah, as you see, I jump off, do the long jump, go back, jump off farther behind, do the jump, go back. And this is actually a possibility to do the 1 cycle as well. And this actually guarantees you a time which is either in the low 50s or even sub 50 as it is here. If you go for the 2 quick jump stabs and then for the normal stabs, you'll get a sub 1 or like a low 1 minute time. Without any of these, if you just do the normal skip, you will get like a 108 or something. So just to keep in mind, you can actually accelerate your Hydrus to be a sub 50 as long as you jump off farther behind for the jump stabs. It's tricky, but you can practice it, and that's all I'm going to say for Hydrus HTA. Okay, Kuromori HTA. I've noticed that many people have kind of a problem with one cycling Kuro on HTA. So first of all, I'm going to actually show a way of doing that in a very slow way, but a way which doesn't include any reset steps. So this is the way to go if you're kind of new to the game but still wanna at least try to go for one cycle. And this is actually my second score I submitted ever. It was a one cycle on Kuro HTA. Back when I was very proud of it. Now I've improved it to being a sub 1 and try to even go for the jump stab strats. But this is just to kind of show how to do it in a way which doesn't include cycle steps if you don't want to go for them. I'll still include a tutorial by Church where he explains the cycle steps in a, in my opinion, very helpful manner. And in the second part of the tutorial I'll explain them myself as well, how to do it properly and stuff. But this, first of all, like, yeah, you obviously do the whistle, you go down the stairs. This is just like an NTA, just that it's going to be kind of important what to do after here. So first of all, on HTA, which is important no matter which strategy you do, you wanna shoot Kuro as soon as he's at the highest point, which is kind of here. And that's different to NTA, because in NTA it doesn't matter, you'll always be fast enough to do the stabs, but the higher Kuro falls, the more time you get to do the one cycle. And in HTA that's actually important. So you let him go up all the way, and then you do the arrows. I even fail one here. This score is so terrible. But yeah. Like, I jumped down instantly. This is not the fastest way of doing that. I was bad at the game at that time. I still am kinda bad at the game. But yeah, all the minor details which you can do better here I'll explain in the second part of this. But the only important thing I wanted to kind of notice, bring to your attention rather, is if you stab, just like here, kind of to the right of the sigil, like let me see, right here. If you grab right here, you can obviously go for reset stabs, which I will explain in a second, but if you just keep on grabbing this spot where you don't get the animation where one pulls out the sword, but you just keep on grabbing onto that spot once you get it once, and you continue stabbing, you can actually still get a one cycle. And as you see, I do it here. 1, 2, yeah, I go for a full 6 stabs, it's 6 stabs for both sigils, by just grabbing onto this sigil. There we go. You continue running instantly, and then you grab onto this sigil and do the 6 steps here. Another important thing is actually that you don't finish up the sigil with a jump stab. It's a big no-go. You can actually do it if you're very fast, but most of the time it will just bug out. So don't jump stab it. Just stab it normally and it's fine, okay? Because most of the time is if Kuro is kind of shaking like that, the jump stab just won't go through. It's kind of random if it does or not. But unless you're on really fast pace or wanna go for ILs or whatever, don't go for the jump stab. Okay. So yeah, just go for the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as long as you kept on grabbing at this point here, while getting the ricochet steps, so not the full steps like here, where he does this, you can actually still get the one cycle. I get it very barely here, but it works. So don't give up on the one cycle just because you can do the reset steps, because it's actually possible to do them as long as you grab onto a point I marked. But now the actually fast way and more consistent way of doing that if you're actually good at the strategy. Alrighty. Now this is from my current HTA even PB, where I actually go for one cycle the proper way, the way it should be done. because it's just worth learning it, and it makes the thing more consistent once you're actually good at the strategy. For more details on the reset steps or cycle step or however you want to call it, you can actually watch Church's tutorial for that one, which I will link as well in the description. But here an overall thing how you can do it in HTA. I again whistle, get out the bow, jump down. You can also walk down if you prefer. It doesn't matter. And here you aim up at the very top. Wait for him to be actually at the very top to have the most time to actually one cycle. And here after shooting him down you wait a little bit and then jump. Why is that important that you wait? Because whenever you land on Kuromori, if you jump off too early, Wanda will actually be pushed off of Kuro. So if you actually wait a little, when he actually lands, you can land on Kuro. Okay, I realized I didn't do that in this run, but doesn't matter. If you land on him, it will work just fine and you won't get pushed off. I was a bit unlucky here. I save it by doing this one. So yeah, another strategy you can do if you land kind of like I do here, where in theory you want to be farther, like you want to aim for this point. I've aimed too far to the left, right. If you land here it should be fine, you will stay on it and you can go right to the stabbing part. But if you fall down, doesn't matter, just go onto his foot and then you can still jump up. And then to the important part. I switch to hand, as you can see here, because you wanna have the fast charge up. And the second part is, you wanna again charge your stab, just like I showed in the other run, on the right side of this sigil. And now you go for the resets. You stab, let go, walk up, regrab, stab. Stab, let go, walk up, regrab, stab. Charge explains it in a more detailed manner and it helped me a lot. I even failed it once, it doesn't matter. As long as you do them, you're way faster than if you just did the ricochet stabs. Just like that. And then you can go to the next sigil and you're way quicker and you will have a very easy time one cycling this. So literally I would always go for the reset or cycle stabs because it makes the thing more consistent if you actually can do them. And the most important thing about it is to be on the right of the sigil. After you stab, you let go, go a bit forward, regrab on the same position and stab again. I'll link Church's tutorial as well, so maybe if my explanation doesn't really work here, you can watch his tutorial again. And try again. The really important thing about these stabs is that you actually move up a little every time you do them. Like, maybe I can make it more clear. Actually, let me, since I'm already using YouTube like a complete pleb, maybe I can make use of this slowdown thingy. So you stab, let go, and see like I walked up here to get the stab on the same spot. You regrab and stab again. And that's like a very quick succession, so it's more about the rhythm anyway. You stab, let go, walk up, and regrab and stab again. You probably have to practice this quite a bit, so just try for HTALs and try to go for this. Once you actually get the idea how it works and do it yourself, it will make way more sense. And this is the fastest technique of stabbing this sigil. It's the same for quads, back sigil for example, where you can do this. And it's just overall very, very helpful. So yeah. After that you just do those resets. I failed it once, it doesn't matter since I already saved so much time. You do 6 stabs here, go to this sigil, do another 6. And again, the most important part, don't jump stab if you're going for a full game boss rush. Because this won't work as soon as Kuro starts moving kind of like that. The jump step will just get denied, so just do full steps and you should be fine. That's a 107, perfectly fine. Alright, Kuro done. Alright, obviously for the most part, Basaran's most difficult part is the skip itself. Plush explains it perfectly well, so just watch his tutorial if that's the only thing you care about, because I will be talking about the stabbing on HT, which can actually save a lot of time if you do it right, and can guarantee a sub 1 Basaran. So I'm going into details about the stabbing technique, but technically, obviously, if you do the skip and just go for the stabs, and you keep stabbing, at some point this Colossus is going to die, and it's fine, obviously, but yeah. This technique actually allows you to get a sub 1 Basaran on HT, and I even managed to do the same strategy in boss rush before. Not as fast, but it definitely helps. So the first thing that I'm going to explain, if you actually go for this, like, the way I get it here, actually, let me explain this, yeah. Like, for the most part, you obviously go to the second ledge when you go for the skip, but you don't have to do it. If you just do a quick jump and land on the same ledge, you can do the skip just as fine. That's what I am even doing in this run. So, if you mess it up on landing on this sigil or something, ledge, you can actually just do the same skip from this ledge. Just as a quick side note. But yeah, the first thing, if you land somewhere here and you don't get shaken, it's a perfect opportunity to go for the instant jump step on the sigil. I've seen other people just not go for it, even though it's a perfect setup. I think I link Church's other tutorial for the Basaran as well, where he explains this one. It's a bit outdated on the lineup you do. I think Plush explains it better, where you skip the lasers and such. If he doesn't, it doesn't matter too much, because you can do this just as fine with the other lineups, and obviously they still work, they're just kinda a bit slower. But this is definitely what you wanna go for. The instant jump step. If you land somewhere here, it's just so free, and if you do that, you can actually get at least 3 stabs here. If you're like someone like Marcelo, you can go for 4, you can go for 5, you can just kill the Colossus instantly, I don't care. The 3 is what you wanna go for, and if you don't get it, 2 are just fine. Then you'll just do another stab. But now, something that I've noticed is very helpful for HTA, after you do the 3 stabs, once he does this animation, you actually wanna let go. Right here. Like, not as he's turning like back obviously, because he will just fly back, but once he's kind of turning back, you wanna jump down like that, and as long as you land kind of behind this line, which you can see, as long as you land somewhere here, this will actually reset Basaran's walking animation, and you can do it as quickly as I am showing it here. And this will actually make Basaran stop doing the head shake animation. So you can go in there instantly again, he won't do the head shakes, and you can just keep on stabbing. And go for the plant if you so choose. This will not only give you much more time to get the plant and enhance your time, this will also make him skip all of the head shakes. So it's very much worth it. It might not be the fastest IL strategy. I've seen Marcelo do 2 stabs per cycle of the head shake, so that might be just faster for all I know. But this is definitely a way of doing it fast and a very safe way. So once you dropped back behind this line, you go forward, and as you can see, Basaran just stops doing the head shakes. And now you can actually go for the plant. What plant spots are there on Basaran? It's either here in the front of the sigil, where you just try to re-grab here and it works sometimes, most of the time, sometimes it doesn't. Or you can go behind the sigil, like I do here, kind of, yeah, almost on the edge, kind of behind the sigil. Those are the two plant spots which I found being consistent. As you can see, I do one step, get shaken out, go back, and now I actually get the plant. As you can see behind the sigil. This is the easier one to go for if you actually drop down. If you don't want to go for this, you can just take the head shakes and then go for the front of the sigil for the plant. It works just as fine. And yeah, as you can see, I already got the plant, so here I am already stabbing way past half health. He just goes for these shakes, but it doesn't matter because I can just keep stabbing. And once you're here, it's just glorious in boss rushes because you know you have a guaranteed fast time. You don't have to go for the jump step even, which I do here because it's an AL. You can just keep on stabbing and it's perfectly fine. But yeah, that's like one thing that can actually enhance your HTA Basaran. The dropping down behind the line, going back forward, going for the plant, and then you have a very easy sub 1 Basaran, basically for free. So yeah, but for the general idea of the skip, just watch Plush's or Church's tutorial or whatever, which I'm going to link down in the description. So for Dirge, there's not too much difference, so I'm going to keep this very, very brief. Basically the only thing I'm explaining is how to do a one cycle in HTA. The rest is basically the same. You just get the plant on the top sigil and it's fine. Yeah, not much to say here. This is kind of a quick execution because it's obviously an IL, but it doesn't matter. The only thing I'm explaining here is that you kind of jump here and do 1, 2, 3, 4, and kind of like 80% of a step, maybe 75% of a step, and yeah, once you're done, you should be good to go for one cycle. So it's basically 4 full steps and 75 to 80% of another step. Don't go too high, otherwise you'll fail one cycle. But it's actually fairly easy to get on HTA, there's more wiggle room. So probably anywhere for 70 to 80% of a step should work most of the time. So yeah, so much for HTA Dirge. I'm sure Wacky will do a more in-depth tutorial on how to do the ILs at some point, so I'm not even going to explain this one too much more. Alrighty, I'm obviously skipping Celosia because there's not really much to talk about, just stab one more time and you should be good to go, so just watch Plush's tutorial, and I'm actually going to link Aidan's tutorial as well for the pillar skip if you wanna go for an AL or something, which is also very good. But yeah, HTA Pelagia is actually another very interesting topic because this is one of the ILs where you can save a lot of time if you know what you're doing. And I'm still not consistent enough, because if I was and actually got a run past HTA Pelagia for 2 cycle, I would already have the HTA world record, because this is basically that one thing where I can save like 3 minutes. And if you actually get a bit lucky and do these steps, you can actually get a sub 2 Pelagia. I got a 139 here, but even if you just get like a 210 Pelagia, it's still more than good enough. There is a kind of RNG element in there which I'm going to talk over later, but yeah, let's just start. So the first little skip, I'm just going to briefly mention how to do it. Not sure if Plush probably covers it in his tutorial, I didn't check, but yeah, I can just explain it here. Basically you wanna go for 2 arrows. I do them usually 2 point something, like 2.1 second, and then 6 point something, 6.1 second maybe, and it works. Some other people do it in different ways. Just look at other people's runs, look at my runs, try to find the timing you're comfortable with, and as long as you stick to it, it should be fine. I go for 2.1 second and 6.1 seconds for the arrows, and it works fine. 2.1, 4, 5, 6.1, and as soon as you see Pelagia doing this animation where it kind of lowers its head, you know you did it right, and you will get the skip. It's a bit tricky at first, but as just practice it in IO, and it should be fine, okay? I run up to it and switch to hand instantly. You can also switch to hand later if you're not quite comfortable with that, but this is probably the most consistent way. And you jump here, grab, wait a little, and once Pelagia's head is like that, you can actually run up. If you're not as confident if by doing that, you can actually still grab onto the sides and wait a little till Pelagia does this animation where you can still kind of easily get up there. But I just run up and jump over here, and that's usually what I do for boss rushes as well. It's actually not as difficult as it looks, but then again, if you don't feel confident, just grab onto this ledge, wait a little, and you should be fine. So then, the good thing is, if you do this, or are quick enough in general, you can actually go for a quick slash, and the slash you want to go for is, as soon as Pelagia kind of does this animation where it kind of pulls up the head and then goes back down, kind of here you want to go for the first stab, slash, and the slash you want to do is either on this tooth or this tooth, and this actually makes Pelagia do a very weird and fast turn towards the destination you actually want to go for. This is something that can actually save you a lot of time if you do it right. And if you do it right, you will only need 2 slashes with a sword to actually get to the gazebo. So this is a cool trick to accelerate the time. Obviously you don't need this, but it's very helpful. One quick here, and then you see Pelagia already walked forward by a lot. You want to go for the second slash here, and what you want to do then is go to this missing tooth here, make Wanda stumble and jump onto the gazebo. Kind of like that. And this is very consistent actually, if you do it right timing wise. And even if it doesn't work out, just get to the gazebo somehow, it doesn't matter. But if you actually do this animation, what happens now is very consistent to do. In theory, what I'm going to show here is also possible with a normal strategy where you either jump back and forth from the thingies, or you just hide and then go and jump. But the strategy I'm showing here is the fastest one, and the one I'm going for in HTA because it just saves a lot of time and makes things more consistent if you do it right. So you can try to learn this, or if you want to go for the normal strategy, you can obviously just do a normal jump, but then you have to make sure to go for a very, very quick jump to the belly, otherwise you won't get the 2 cycle, and preferably with a lined sword. So yeah, but what I'm going for, I still line the sword. You don't have to actually if you go for this strategy. It's actually easier to not line the sword because you can see the sigil. But I jump forward, drop down, roll in this direction, grab onto this, and then the timing is a bit tricky. You have to kind of experiment with it. If you do this line up properly, it's kind of, once you see Wander kind of going back with back and forth like swinging, you want to drop down then, but it's really a timing that I can't really explain too well. The best way is just learning by doing. Go into IELTS and try this out for yourself. Once you actually get the grab onto the belly, it's basically self-explanatory. It takes a bit of practice and timing, but you can actually drop down from here to the belly. And as you see, I start stabbing instantly. And that's basically what it is, what you need to do. If you do a normal strategy and jump down here, you would still need to stab instantly, otherwise the 2 cycle won't work. And what you want to go for is 2 full stabs, 1 90% stab. It also works with full stabs, but 90% stabs is more consistent because you don't actually need a full stab, and it guarantees that you can get another one fairly quickly. So I go for 1 full stab, another full step. And it's not like in NTA where it matters where you actually are on the sigil. The only important thing is that you hit the sigil, and that's all. As long as you get the 2.9 stabs, if you're quick enough, like I'm here, if you see this animation and Pelagia doesn't go down by this point, you have the 2 cycle. Because you will just go for another full stab, and as you see, you got over half damage, so Pelagia does this animation where it goes back up, but instead of going for another stab, you let go, and you wanna aim for this gazebo. If you land in the water, it's not too bad, you most likely have enough time to swim here and jump onto this part of the gazebo. That's a very important part because you can actually skip a lot of annoying things if you just do this right. Okay. And again, if you do this normal thing, you still have to stab instantly, do 2.9 and then another full stab to trigger that animation. If after 3 steps Pelagia lowers back down, you can't get the 4th step, you failed the 2 cycle, and you were too slow with this stabbing at the first part of this all. So 2, 2.9 and 3.9. You could do another step, but you let go. Go to the gazebo here, land instantly, you can swim here. And as long as you stand here, as Pelagia is here, you wanna do the jump. Where Pelagia lowers its head, you wanna jump onto him. And if you're lucky, sometimes you can be unlucky and still fall down, but if you do this properly, you can actually be on Pelagia after the cutscene. You don't have control in the cutscene, so it's kind of random. And there's another random thing here that I will explain later. But if you did this right, you are actually guaranteed not only a 2 cycle, but also being on Pelagia back again. And this is a very easy way of doing it. But here, another thing which is kind of unfortunate, for all I know it's random, but sometimes Pelagia turns to the right, which is the right way, and sometimes it turns to the left, which is the wrong way. You want a Pelagia to turn to the right way, and that guarantees you a faster time, but in a boss rush you won't care. As long as you get the 2 cycle, even if Pelagia turns to the left way, you'll still get a fast enough time. So yeah, here it turns to the right way because it's my world record, and then you just continue. As you see, I'm still on the head. Sometimes you fall down, then it's unfortunate, then you just have to go back up. Somehow. Just swim behind Pelagia, and actually if you jump on the back, but just slightly to the left or to the right, on the black parts, you can actually move up fairly quickly. Yeah, but it's just like your call. Sometimes it's faster to go back to the gazebo and make Pelagia do the animation and stuff. You can even go for intended strats in that point and just swim around and climb up the back. It doesn't really matter because there's no really fastest way of doing it. It's more like adapting to the situation. But if you're lucky, you're on Pelagia. You just keep stabbing forward like that, and here you can just go for a safe strategy instead of doing weird business with the thing. I'll go here because this is a world record, but here you can even go for the casual strat where you run back forth, or you can just jump forward and jump back and stuff. It doesn't matter here, because once you're at this point, you can just go for 3 quick stabs and you should have the 1 cycle in the back. Like, I wouldn't even like bother to go for this one because I'm just going for this one because of the world record, but if I even got this in a normal run, I would just run back and do it casually. I still go for this and I make it, and here you actually have usually enough time to position where I managed to land, because I guess that makes it more consistent, but in the end it's not as strict as in the 1 cycle for NTA. You basically want to go for 3 full stabs and then you're good to go. And there's really not much that you can do wrong at this point. So yeah, this is the 2 cycles Pelagia. Again, start stabbing very quickly. you can go for this thing where you jump back, roll, and jump from the head to the belly. It makes it easier to hit, but then again it's like another trick that adds to the difficulty. You can also go for the normal strategy, but then you have to jump very early onto the belly and do a stab with the hand. Otherwise you won't get the 2 cycle. So experiment with it in the ILs. Either way works, but as long as you start stabbing early enough and get the 4 stabs or 3.9 stabs onto Pelagia's belly, you should be good to go. So that's the 2 cycle for Pelagia. Alrighty, another easy to cover one. Phalanx. I'm going to explain how many steps you do per sigil and the rest you take from Plush's tutorial. And the amount of steps you do is 1, 2, and 3/4 of a step, kind of like that. 70 to 80%. Don't go for 90% like in NTA, because this will actually finish off the sigil. But if you do like anywhere from 2.7 to 2.8 steps on every sigil, you should have the 1 cycle. There you go. Quick one. So, I obviously skipped Cenobia because actually in my tutorial I also talk about the slight difference which you can find in the Cenobia stabbing, but basically just stab more and watch my Cenobia tutorial and you're good to go. Malus I won't cover because it's also the same, just watch Plush's tutorial and you're good to go. And stab more. Argus, there's really only one thing to cover, that's the chest sigil and some other things you can go for. So I think Plush explains the hand first on NTA, and it's kind of the same in NTA and HTA, but not quite. You obviously go for that jump, climb up, do this jump. I will also link a tutorial where Church explains another way of doing that, which is also just fine. Hopefully I won't forget to link things I actually talk about linking. So if I actually forget to link some kind of video I wanted to link during this tutorial, please tell me in the comments and I'll do that if I forget any. But yeah, you jump to this sigil, and here instead of 1 step you actually have to go for 2 stabs, because 1 is not enough. But if you actually get 1 step and you're lined up like that, that's perfect, because that almost guarantees you a very quick way of doing Argus. If you don't, you just wait for the animation, do a 2nd step, and then you can continue to do this whole annoying thing, which is probably already explained in Plush's or Church's tutorial. But if you get it like that, you can get not only a 2nd step, but once you don't see Wander, just jump forward, and voila, you're on the thing and you have a very fast timing for the skip. Because you're already on here and you save quite some time. Other than that, it's mostly like a feeling thing, like a thing which you develop by playing a lot. But after the 2nd step, if you do the steps just like in this animation, you can just jump forward while you don't see anything, and most of the time you will actually land here. So yeah, the skip, I'm pretty sure Plush already explained it, so I'm not going to cover this one. There's tons of tutorials out there for this jump. For Argus' head, you need to do 4.5 steps. What's very helpful is knowing the plant which is behind the sigil, between like the sigil and this thing. I won't get it here because this is an IL, so I try to go for kind of a fast way, but I think I'll get it on like after 1 step. Yeah, now yeah. Here I re-grab. Exactly, and this is the plant. Between this thingy and the sigil is actually the plant. You wanna go for 4.5 steps. 2, 3, 4.5. So this is an IL, so one thing I will do, I will explain what it does, but it's kind of tricky-ish. So in a full game run you can just skip out on that thing and just go for 3 full steps, but you can actually skip 1 full step on the chest sigil, which is probably one of the most annoying sigils in the game, by slashing it if you do some extra damage. And as you can see here, I actually do some extra damage on this one. And this thankfully gives me this perfect lineup to be on the sigil again. But it doesn't obviously always work out that way, so however you make it down there, make sure to be patient and not actually fall down. Like sometimes I even go over with plate thingies, and these plate thingies actually allow you to regain stamina and stuff if you have problems with that. But yeah, another important thing on this sigil is kind of like with Phaedra sigil. You have to be on the sigil to actually hit it. If you're too far up, you won't hit it. So it's not like those other sigils like Quad where you can stab just anywhere. Try to actually stab onto the sigil. And another thing which is applicable here is the stabbing technique which I explained in the Malus part of this video on the second sigil. So you can watch that, and I also use it on Barba. And here it's just the same. You can stab, re-grab and switch to hand, and it actually works. And other than that, this sigil is very annoying. You wanna get a very fast stab in before Argus shakes, but that doesn't always work. If you just want to finish the sigil peacefully, and you don't care about saving time or anything, you can just go for 3 full stabs after each shake. Obviously this is a speedrun, so I go for 1 stab before he starts shaking, interrupting it, and this is obviously the ideal, but if you wanna get safe stabs and you have problems with it, just wait for the shaking to end, and then you always get a possibility to stab perfectly fine once he stops shaking. So yeah, it's a judgment thing for the most part. But here I always again re-grab and try to stab again. It doesn't work, so I do this thing again. And yeah, if you keep on re-grabbing and you see Wonder being in a position where he's not shaking around, you can actually stab again before the shaking starts. And here I go for the slash because I did this skip. That's what I do, I slash the sigil. Because I did some extra damage up there. If you don't do extra damage, the slash doesn't work, to my knowledge. So, if you don't want to do any of these things, just go for an extra stab and it should be fine. This sigil is very tricky. I would advise you to just practice it in ILs because it can be very tricky at times. Make sure to be on the sigil when stabbing it. Make sure to do full stabs because if you continue doing half stabs, it also kind of works, but in the end it's probably not even worth it. Unless you can get many of them in a succession. Yeah, it's just a judgment thing, but you need 3 stabs on this, so do it however you feel like your skill level is. Once again, if you wanna go for 3 safe stabs, just wait out those shaking animations and do the stab afterwards, and it should be fine. Alrighty, this concludes my HTA tutorial. If there are any questions to any of these things, just ask me in the comments, and if needed I'll obviously do an update video or whatever. But yeah, I just felt like the HTA category really doesn't get enough runs and stuff, so I kind of tried to compile all of my knowledge that could be helpful for HTA. Hopefully this is helpful, and thanks for watching.